So you want to create the perfect siege for the D&D campaign, but you have no idea where to start. Well, I've just finished a campaign that was focused on a siege, and I can tell you how to do it. So stick around and see where this is going. Let me guess, you've just watched Lord of the Rings again, and you want to do the Helm's Deep battle. Well, I know I did. So now I'm gonna tell you how I've made a D&D campaign focus on a massive siege of a stronghold. First, I've took inspiration from three types of sieges. One is the Lord of the Rings sieges, the Helm's Deep and the Minas Tirith. The second, I took inspiration from Gotrek and Felix's Siege of Prague. And third, I've actually took inspiration from real life sieges that happened in medieval times. So, first things first, we all love Lord of the Rings, but you don't need to do a Helm's Deep from the start, and that's it. Because if you do a Helm's Deep and everything goes on and everything protects at the same time and does the whole siege, it might work on a really smaller scale, but not really with a bigger scale. And today we're trying to do a massive siege, right? So, how do we do it? So, think about this. First, before the siege happens, how do you know there'll be a siege? Maybe there's a traitor, a wizard, or a spy who knows that a siege will appear or that your stronghold will be targeted. So, what do? Well, first, you need to gather allies. Or you could deny allies to the enemy. Or make a deal with a neutral party that might be able to help. For example, let's say there is a cave of trolls nearby. Well, the enemy will clearly be requisitioning them, let's say. So, by you dispatching them, that makes the enemy force less powerful. Second, an ally or neutral party that might be able to that you might be able to sway is, let's say, a group of giants. They might be a very helpful addition to your army. And there might be some enemies that you might not know that the enemy will clearly use. Now, you did stuff before the siege happened, but what will you do when the siege is there? Well, the army is not just gonna siege right away, as you see right here. They will set up camp and first, let's say they send a letter. Do you surrender without any bloodshed? Well, most likely the king or the government will say no. So, what do? Well, you let your players do raids. How do you do a raid? Well, first, don't just let your party get out and strike at the enemy. That's wrong. You let them, let's say, you want to strike at the troops. How do it? You strike at the food supply, strike at weapon caches, or burn some tents. This creates chaos that will literally put a dent in their armies. So don't just put your heroes attacking a huge, vast quantity of orcs, let's say. Let them destroy a few guards and get the supplies. Another type of raid might be for information. They might need to know where the leaders of the warband are. Maybe they have a shaman or some lieutenants. But don't let them get the war boss, let's say, right away. Let that be for the final siege. And the last type of raid that I recommend is, well, the assassination of one of them. Let them try to assassinate a leader, a shaman, or anything important they might be able to find. And don't forget about siege weapons that you can see in the back. Maybe they're building trebuchets, or some siege towers, or maybe even battering ram. Let them sabotage them. So we talk about raids and what to do before a siege, but don't just go with a siege right away. Do a attempt siege, let's say. Maybe they've killed one of their leaders and his clan are ravenous. Maybe they want blood, they want revenge. And let's say they build some ineffective siege towers and they're storming the walls. Now, is this the real siege? Most likely not. But this helps your players understand how the real siege will happen. They understand what to do with siege towers and how to deal with the enemy attacking your walls. Now, what do you do when the actual siege happens? Well, let them see the towers crumble because they sabotage them. Let them see the enemy be disoriented and chaotic because they don't have a leader or they've been terrorized. And chaos was spread in the ranks by your own raids. And don't forget, do not put the war boss and the leaders right there. Let the meat waves hit the towers first. Let some, let's say, monsters also. And when they breach the wall or get out from the siege towers, let your party hold off a tower or two or some ladders. Or they might even want to hold off at the main gate where the battering ram is gonna break down the wall. But remember, don't let this be the end. Have a plan for every part of the wall that's getting sieged. Maybe this part will always win, right? This part is highly contested and the defenders might actually prevail. And this part, well, depends on what the players do. It might fall or not. Maybe that's where the militia are, right? So have some plans. And after the first wall falls, go to the inner wall and see there what your party will do. Maybe do a second smaller siege there. And before the first and the second, they might be able to do some raids as well. So remember, don't just go in at the start of the siege and that's it. Let the players do stuff before the siege actually happens. Let them raid the enemy encampments with a variety of raids, do an attempt siege that will test your players and make them think how they're gonna react when the siege actually happens. And, well, let's not forget about the actual siege that, well, you're going to do. And if the first walls fall, let the defenders return to the inner wall and do it all over again. Well, in a smaller scale, of course. Now, I want to hear from you. What types of sieges did you play in Dungeons and Dragons? And how are you going to make your D&D sieges? Don't forget to subscribe for more videos like this. See you next time.